Netanyahu coming and giving a speech to the United States Congress. There's a lot of different angles about this stuff to talk about. I would say, obviously, if you guys, if you listen to this show, you kind of already could guess that my take. I'm disgusted by it. I just find it's not only there is some. It's not only like disgusting because it's like, look, this is a war criminal who's in the middle of conducting a brutal war, who literally has an arrest warrant out for him by the International Criminal Court. And look, at the very least, you would say globally and domestically, this is a very controversial figure. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, this is a figure, a guy in Netanyahu, and it's not just as simple as like how you feel about Israel. It's certainly not just how you feel about the Jews or something like that. It's the fact that Netanyahu has been different than every other prime minister in Israeli history. Netanyahu is really the only Israeli prime minister who's ever treated the Palestinian problem as something for the military to handle. It was always, before Netanyahu, even dealing with a substantial terrorist problem, Israel always dealt with terrorism through targeted assassinations and special operations forces. And Netanyahu's really the guy who, number one, was like, we're bailing on any type of peace process. And number two, we're treating this as a military problem, as if it's a foreign army. That's how we're going to treat this thing, as if the people in Palestine are a foreign military. And however you feel about it, that's a very controversial position to take. And it's brought, human catastrophe, like on a profound level. And then to see him come to Congress and just get his ass kissed, it's just so disturbing. It's such it says something that is so deeply wrong in our domestic politics. But anyway, I don't know if you have any thoughts just on that, just on the fact that he comes here to speak and gets his ass kissed.
Yeah, just to speak to the optics, it's an incredible confidence game that they get to show up and everyone gets to applaud what he's doing. From a sales perspective, there used to be this line, don't fear the phone, which is in part, imagine if you're on a plane and the plane is literally gonna crash and you're able to get the pilot on. I don't know, you're sitting in the back or the pilot just comes on and goes, hey, everything's fine. Just hearing that guy go, hey, everything's fine, you're instantly gonna be like, we're fine. And there's something to, in the very manipulative sales game, there's something to it's human nature to hide and cower when things aren't going well. And when people will face you and be right in front of you, it naturally makes you think like, oh, like this guy, like if you were cheating on your wife, you're not showing up to your houses regularly. You're going to be out more. But the real sickos are able to just show up with a smile on their face and pretend like everything's fine. Or in this case, go even further and go, I am 100% doing the right thing. I know that this is not the most profound way to say it, but it's literally like when you farted in a car and he who smelt it dealt it. That is the game that he's playing, where he's showing up and going, anyone who's protesting is being supported by Iran, as if we don't know that the politicians were trying to get rid of TikTok on account of the fact that that people were speaking out against Israel and just sharing footage from what was going on in Palestine. There was another news story about a direct influence campaign of Israel over social media. We know the amount of money that Israel spends, with the politicians through AIPAC or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm just saying the fact that we participated in allowing him to show up and be applauded as if what he's doing is noble is right and right. It's considering what's going on there, it just seems, I don't know, for all the talk of like Trump is Hitler, it felt like, can you imagine if Hitler came and gave a speech? It's like, why are I mean, even if you wanted to support them and say what's happening is terrible, but we see them as an ally and we're going to support them, to let him come and celebrate him, I think is a little gross.
Yeah, 100%. And especially when, keeping in mind a few like facts, like number one, that the majority of the American people want a ceasefire. It's like the majority of the American people don't support what this guy's doing. And to think about that, as I've mentioned many times, that so in Benjamin Netanyahu, you have a guy who, look, he's the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history. He first was elected prime minister in 1996. He's had some years where he was out, but he's been in for most of the time since then. And he has been an advocate of American intervention in the Middle East this entire time. And he's gotten his way for a lot of them. I mean, he came famously in 2002. He came and testified before Congress as a regional expert, and he guaranteed that if we overthrew Saddam Hussein, there would be massive positive effects throughout the region. In this same testimony in 2002, he also said that he would like to see regime change in Iran and in Libya. He didn't get the one in Iran yet, although he's still working on that. He did get the one in Libya. He did get the one in Iraq. They were both absolute disasters, not just for our country, where, it cost us trillions of dollars and thousands of our bravest young men, tens of thousands, if you count those who committed suicide in the aftermath. Cost the country trillions of dollars. It also led directly to the migrant crisis in Europe. I mean, it's like been a disaster for Western civilization. And yet that guy is able to come back, get nothing but applause, like no account. I mean, literally, it would be anybody else who was like one of the chief supporters of those policies wouldn't get applause the same way, like American politicians. George W. Bush wouldn't get applause that way. You know what I mean? Like, why we're rolling out the red carpet for a foreign leader in a way that we never would for any of our own. And then on top of that, he has the nerve to demonize Americans who are exercising their First Amendment rights in protesting the atrocities that his government is committing. It's so appalling. You can't even believe it's happening in front of you. It's just absolutely disgusting.
I almost see everything in Fauci terms these days. I almost want to recreate like the Rotten Tomatoes website or something, as like scoring things like on a, like you get 3 Faucis, 4 Faucis, depending on how egregious it is.
I like that.
Yeah, but seeing him out there and everyone applauding as he's making all this double speak about how we're not trying to control the region, but, it's going to be demilitarized, and just everything that he's saying, where I know that he's lying and that they're killing innocent civilians, and yet there's an entire room that's applauding it because they're trying to sell us on that what he's doing is acceptable. Because it's like I was saying, it defies human nature to have someone who's engaging in evil be right in front of our Congress and Senate being applauded by our own representatives. And that's what sells it. And that's why they're doing it. It's why he's invited. It's why they all sit there and applaud. It's to give it the endorsement and to create the illusion of, no, this is normal and this is good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's that. I think you're absolutely right about that. And it is all sales. It's all propaganda techniques, but man, is it disturbing to see. Let's go to a couple clips from his actual speech and kind of respond to some of those.
The anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building, not that many, but they're there, and throughout the city. Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots. Some of these protesters, the anti.
All right, so there was Benjamin Netanyahu calling American protesters useful idiots because he claims that they're protesting Israel and Iran is celebrating and funding them. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to need some evidence on that funding part. Like, what exactly is your claim here? That Iran has, like, look, dude, I'm to believe that Iran has such influence within the United States of America that they're able to organize these massive protests. Like, this is all Iran. This isn't like anything organic or anything funded from some other form. This is Iran. It's like, wow, dude, that's amazing. You know, it's like, just think about this for a second, Rob. Here is Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to Congress, getting more enthusiastic applause than any president at his State of the Union ever gets. And he's claiming that what, Iran has influence over our country? The Iran, the country who's been sanctioned to death and put on the axis of evil and has been, you know, targeted in every single way from the most powerful people here. But we're to believe that, no, they're the ones pulling, they're the puppet masters pulling the strings here on these people. And then to have these elected representatives ferociously applauding as he slams their constituents, as he slams their voters, a foreign leader coming over here slamming Americans, and you're like a puppy just lapping it up. I just, like, it's so profoundly disgusting. I don't know what, like, I don't know what stronger language I could use, but these people are fucking traitors.